All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to DFS Army's NBA Tournament Strategy Show, where we look at last night. In this case, we celebrate last night because that was freaking awesome. And then we look at today's slate, try to keep making some money for tonight. So let's go ahead and jump into it. You have, of course, me, your host. I'm here to help out and give some DFS wisdom. I've had some success in the past. TK, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I just want to can't wait to get into this slate.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. And I know we talked about it before the show. Next week, we'll have B-Dubs joining us a lot. So we'll have the full trio on board. So I can't wait to see how that goes. But let's celebrate last night a little bit. We had some members doing their thing, making some money, which I love to see. We have my guy, Big Ben, who had a $10,000 win last night on FanDuel. Wow. Congrats to you, man. And then we also do football, NFL stuff here too at DFS Army. Had a nice takedown on FanDuel as well. Of course, if you're interested in being a DFS Army member, link is in the description. We have a 23% off sale going on right now for VIP members, for Core 4, for NBA. It just really depends on what you're looking for. Doesn't really matter. You'll still have 23% off. So definitely join us there. We're hot. We're hoping to keep that stretch going on this large slate. I love celebrating, man, but it's probably good to focus on this slate and try to make more money. Am I right, or do you think we should
100% right?
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe there was some things to celebrate. Like we locked in Kevin Durant on the pre-lock show, so that was an easy win. Anthony Davis, we're over the field on. Goodwin was basically a lock as well. There was a commenter in the comments last night. I don't know if you saw it on yesterday's video. They were like, Kelly O, you're going to be mad about him. And Kelly O was like the one guy I was missing out on last night.
He went off, man. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, that was like the one surprise. But still, really good night. But let's get to this slate. We have a lot of games. We don't have enough time to, chit chat for too long. This first game is already pretty interesting. We have the Nuggets against the Memphis Grizzlies. How are you feeling about this game?
I think the obvious is Jokic. I mean, he has 70-point upside. He's somebody that I think everybody will get to. And then my next favorite piece was Murray. I think he's a solid play. Yep. And then that was pretty much it. And then I mean, Jaren Jackson. I wasn't really getting to him, but he does have upside. But it's just he's not somebody who was a priority for me.
Yeah, I get it. And Jokic, he was fantastic for us on Tuesday. He's priced more appropriately now at 11,600. For me, it's just this Memphis team. They're missing Steven Adams. He's going to be gone for this season. Tillman isn't someone I'm afraid to pick on from an offensive standpoint. Of course, Ja's out. This Memphis team is just still missing a lot of guys. With the front court being so weak on the Memphis team, I think Jokic has to be the guy that everyone looks to, at least for your cash games. But I think he's even tournament viable as well. He has upside in this pretty soft spot. I'm not going to go crazy here, though. Definitely want to see where ownership falls, but he's definitely someone who's on my radar. Bane is priced where he should be. You can look at him as like a GPP viable play, but I don't think I'm going to get there a lot on this 12-gamer. Jaren Jackson Jr., though, for me, TK, when a player hurts me, I know everyone else is like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm not going back there. For me, he's still in the same good spot he was in the first game. It's just, he sucked last time around. Yeah. I don't see JJJ doing that every single time, and Tillman being the main benefactor here. I'm actually kind of hoping like Tillman gets into some foul trouble, and then JJJ can really just have the entire front court to himself. Is that crazy? Is that too much narrative?
I mean, he definitely has the potential. And then the thing about Jaren Jackson is they raised his price tag on DraftKings. So it's like they raised him up. Going against Jokic, people are going to think foul trouble. I mean, I would be surprised if he's up to 15. At least he should be less than 15% owned in the big GPPs, if you ask me.
Yeah, he should. We'll see. Guys, thank y'all for joining us and being in the chat. Always appreciate y'all sticking it out with us. And agreed, OG, like let's get some more takedowns today. The other guy that I think is worth mentioning is Aaron Gordon. He's really popping in the sim model that we have on DFS Army's website, which I personally utilize a ton. It's helped me have a few, like, honestly, one of my 100K wins was purely because of the sim model. So the sim model I value more than almost any other tool here. But Aaron Gordon's popping on that, and so I automatically kind of just put a like on him because of that. But then the matchup against Memphis is, again, another one we can pick on here. But I always feel like it's hard to choose between Gordon and MPJ. Like,
Yeah.
they're always, when everyone's healthy on this team, I never really know what direction I want to go in. But Model likes Gordon, so I'm going to go there. Anyone else you think we're kind of overlooking?
I think we hit it on the head.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I think it's safe to move on now. Next up, we have the Pistons at the Charlotte Hornets. What are your thoughts on the Pistons and Hornets tonight, man?
Man, my thoughts are, man, Duran and Stewart, just go to the pick these bigs versus the Hornets, because Duran is a monster. He's gonna get you a double. You saw what he did last game, and in the last game I was kind of weary of him and these bigs and Bagley because I didn't know the minutes. But if Duran plays the same minutes he did last game, I'm gonna go right back to him here.
Yep. And OG, man, I hear you. I definitely do want to talk more about the sim model. Join the pre-lock show where we have enough time to really just kind of walk through what we look for, B-Dubs and I, and we can definitely hook you up there. Duran, I have a like on him already. I wanted to talk about him as well. Clint Capella had a strong game against this Hornets team. Yep. Clint Capella is hot garbage, like, he's not a good NBA player. He does his thing. He makes his money. Congrats to him, but he's not someone that we like to play from a DFS standpoint. To me, Duran's in a similar spot. I don't typically like to play Duran unless he's in a really good matchup. And to me, he fits the bill here. He's only 5,600. We're not taking a lot of risk here, even if he just has a normal average game. So Duran's really the only guy for me as well. I think Stewart's interesting as like a pivot, but we'll see where ownership falls if I feel like I need to take that pivot. For the Hornets, though, when they're healthy, man, everyone just does their thing. And there's not really one guy who just really goes off, especially while Ball's still kind of on a minutes limit restriction.
Yeah. And he's priced up.
Yeah, and he's priced up. So I can't really get there. I'm not going back to Mark Williams unless he's facing the Hawks. Anyone you feel like we're kind of missing on? It does look like guys like Ivy and Bagley are projecting well.
I was just about to say, I forgot Jaden Ivey. I was getting to him a good amount in my crunches this morning. And I think, last game he got in foul trouble. So he's a guy I will go back to today.
Yeah. It's interesting. I want to dig a little bit deeper into these spots. I think ideally there's better value, but I think they're at least worth mentioning. Especially if the domination station gives me some exposure to them, then it's fine. But I don't think I'll go trying to force the issue too much here. This is a game, this Heat Celtics game is a better game to watch than for DFS, probably. That's my initial read of it, but how are you feeling about this team today?
Yeah, I feel the same way. But yeah, again, I was getting to Holiday. My crunches, I was getting to him. So I will go back right back to him. Porzingis, I mean, I will go back to him too. But other than that, no one else looked too appealing, especially from Miami. I don't like anybody from Miami.
Yeah, Holiday disappointed first game out. Like I said, he's still only 6,500. You hurt me once, you can hurt me again. It's fine. Just keep bringing on the pain. It's fine. And just like you, when I was running some of my lineups early, Giroux was popping up a ton. But in my most recent run, it looks like he's not showing up as much. Yeah, he is. He's right there at 74%. So yeah, I'm getting a crap ton of Giroux. We'll see. A lot of the times, like, projection numbers change throughout the day. So if he's still popping the way he is now, I'll eat it, but it's not my favorite play, obviously. Against both of these teams are just strong defensive teams. So I just don't typically like to force the issue too much here, personally. Just because it's hard for players to have their ceiling performances in these spots typically. Next up, we have the Hawks against the Knicks. How are you treating these teams today, man?
Yeah, I'm getting to Randall and Brunson. This game is a 230.5 game total. So
Hmm.
I'm gonna go right back to Randall. I think he's a little bit too cheap. I think Brunson, he can have a big game. I think Mitchell Robinson is a decent secondary play.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it for the Knicks.
Yeah. Sim Model's liking Robinson a good bit as well, and he projects decently. Similar story with Randall and Brunson. This Hawks team has always been a team we can pick on. It's always just about can this game stay close, and the spread's pretty tight. So I'm with you. I like some of these Knicks plays. Again, though, like I have a few pieces that I have, stronger commitments to. I'm taking bigger stands on. So I'm kind of hoping that as the slate progresses, these guys pop naturally in the domination station. DFS Army's optimizer here. But if they don't, they're kind of on the border of guys I'm willing to kind of force in some of my lineups. So yeah, I agree. Interesting three players right here. Uh, the rest of the Knicks are kind of thin plays for me. They're streaky guys that you just kind of have to get lucky on. So they're not guys that I make priorities typically. And then the Hawks, I don't like to pick on this Knicks team too often, so they're not really on my radar as of right now either. But do you think we're missing anyone from this
Um,
Atlanta Hawks team?
Jalen Johnson did play 29 minutes filling in for John Collins, but
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to chase that.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't feel as chasey. But he is still a guy coming off the bench, So like I
Yeah,
get it. It's one of those areas that doesn't to me, Cam Thomas, that feels like chasing. Like that's a play where you're chasing, whereas Jalen Johnson was
Dallas.
actually just on the court more. I want to see, like, keep an eye on the minutes, but like if you were to play him again today, I wouldn't say that's chasey. I don't think I'm getting there, but he is kind of like on the radar of, especially in like a better matchup. Let's see if those minutes continue to trend up.
Yeah, I
So I
agree.
think that's a good call. Could be a little sneaky. Outside of that, don't love this game. I like the Knicks guys. I don't love the Hawks. That's pretty much my takeaway. Next up we have the Oklahoma City Thunder with the Cleveland Cavaliers. How are you treating these guys today?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go. I'm gonna try to go right back to Evan Mobley.
Yeah,
He was a big letdown last game, but Jared Allen is out, and
yeah,
going back to last year, he averaged 1.15 fantasy points per minute. So he's a guy I'm gonna go back to. Max Strus had what, I think 54 fantasy points last
yeah.
game. That I'm definitely not expecting that. But whatever I get of him, I'll be okay with it. And that's pretty much it for the Cavs. But we gotta watch out for Garland. So Garland is questionable.
Yep. Yep. That Darius Garland being questionable news once again is gonna matter on this slate. Ideally, he plays, so we don't have to worry about it, but we'll see. I agree with you. I'm going right back to Mobley. This is the trend of the slate. If you were in a good spot last slate and you disappointed, and you're in a good spot again, I'm gonna play you. That's the same with JJJ, same with Evan Mobley. I think there's another guy too we've already talked about, but yeah, I'm right there with you on him. Um, is there anyone else like this OKC team? They're so much fun. They have a ton of upside. I like a lot of these teams prefer to play them when there's an injury. Also when they're not playing the Cavs, who are a good defensive team.
Right. Yeah, I wasn't getting to anyone out of OKC.
Yeah, which is sad, but true. And I'm with you on Evan Mobley. I agree. I think Strus is a streaky shooter. He's always been that. He was that with the Miami Heat, so he's gonna have those games. You can chase it if you want to. I don't foresee myself being one of those people who will. Similar story with Okoro too. He had a strong game, but more of a one-off kind of guy who just does that randomly. Like you said, if they show up naturally in my lines, that's fine. But ideally, not forcing the issue with them. So for me, it's really just Evan Mobley, and then moving on. Uh, Anyone else you think we should talk through here?
No, I'm
Oh,
fine.
oh. I just kind of assumed you were gonna say no, and then you wait a little bit. I was like, oh crap. Let's see. All right. I know from talking with you. Well, no, not this game. Uh, I've heard throughout the industry a lot of people focusing on this game, really liking the Rockets primarily. For you though, like, are you liking any of these Spurs or Rockets guys?
My favorite play from this game is the Jeremy Sochan.
Yep.
He's 5K on DraftKings. I think that's a great mid-range play.
Yep.
I'm not getting to any Wembley. I think Fred VanVleet is a nice play from a standpoint of if people are just box scoring, they probably avoid him. So
Yeah.
I'd rather be over on him.
Yeah.
And guys like I like Zach Collins.
Yeah.
And then from the Rockets, that's pretty much it overall.
It's weird. I saw a lot of really sharp players on Zach Collins in the first Spurs game. I'm still kind of on the fence. Did Zach Collins have an increased role? Did he play more minutes as well because Victor got into the foul trouble he got into so early in that game? Or is Zach Collins really going to be like that dominant big this season for the Spurs? I think either could be true. I'm just not sold on one versus the other. So I don't think I think you can pick on this Rockets team however the hell you want to be honest. So like I think you can still play Zach Collins. I think that's totally fine, but I just kind of want to see how things play out. For Wembanyama, I think 8,100's a little bit tough to swallow. The minutes weren't there because of the foul trouble in his first game. I think he could be a sneaky tournament play, but you're really kind of stretching it. I think he's priced pretty appropriately for what he's been doing thus far, but we'll see. I'm going to keep a close eye on it. Fred VanVleet had a tough game one. Shungen is a fine play, but I think there's better center options. I'm with you on Sohan. I think Sohan's probably my favorite play. He did have a strong game last time out, but he has a really soft matchup once again, and I think he should be the focal point of this offense when Victor isn't on the court, or if he's like option number 2, which at 5K I'm totally fine paying up for, or just paying for in general. Anyone else you feel like we might be missing? I know we haven't really talked about these Rockets guys. I think if there was one guy I wanted to try and force exposure to, it would probably be Jalen Green. He led the team in usage, not really a shocker here, in their first game. And the Spurs team is not a great defensive team, so I think Jalen Green could be interesting, but I think Sohan's really the main guy I'm focusing on.
Yeah, I agree. I was kind of looking at Jalen Green, but it's just like with him, it's going to be a wait and see approach. Yeah. But this, I mean, if it's anybody, he should be able to put up points easily on the Spurs team. But for me, I'm just waiting and seeing with him.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good call too. Mr. 5 said on bigger slates, is it okay to set exposure max lower or better to set mins on players? On bigger slates, is it okay to set the exposure max lower? I don't really mess with exposure maximums too much on the domination station, Mr. 5, but I do put mins on my leverage plays typically. And guys, I just feel like I'm not seeing enough in the domination station, which of course we can talk about more on the pre-lock show. And OG, I'm not sure. Do you do the late slate cheat sheet, TK, or is that B-dubs?
The late slate, that's B-dubs.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, yeah, it's Sohan, and moving on from there, or Sohan. All right. Next up, we have this Toronto Raptors game against the Chicago Bulls. This Raptors team is going to be interesting to watch, just to kind of see how they utilize their rotations. Dennis Schroeder starting, things of that sort. But how are you treating this team today?
With Toronto, the main piece I was getting to is Jacob Patel. Mm-hmm. I think he's priced wonderfully at 5,300. I think that's a great play. And then he was pretty much it from Toronto. I know Dennis Schroeder had a good game last game, but for me, it's just that Jacob Patel.
Yeah, I think it's Jakob Poeltl. I think that's how you pronounce it, but I'm also awful at pronunciation, so don't quote me on it. But yeah, with Jakob, I think he's in a good spot. Like, he's projecting well, obviously, 5,300. Bulls aren't really a defense I go out of my way to avoid typically, and there's these Raptors players are still seeing decent runs, even though Nurse is gone. They, for the most part, their starters still played pretty heavy minutes. So I like this team. The matchup just isn't my favorite. So I'm not really taking shots on Siakam here. The price tag on these Bulls guys is still pretty palatable. I know Levine disappointed heavily last game. DeRozan and Vucevic were fine, but not special. There's some interesting pieces from this game, but I kind of want to see where ownership falls. If they're going to be chalky again, I think I'm probably just going to pick another spot on this slate. But if it comes like DeRozan, Vucevic, and Levine, if Levine is severely underowned, like in that 1 to 5% range, I'm thinking about taking a shot. Do you think that sounds crazy though? Like, is that plausible to you? What
Yeah,
are you doing here?
yeah. I was on the same page with Levine and DeRozan, but
Yep.
like you said, if they're chalky, I'm going to get way under the field,
Yeah.
especially on this big slate. They can easily disappoint again. So if they're chalky, I'm just going to stay away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with that tenfold. We can just look at it and move on. And again, for those of you that don't know, we do update ownership. Sometimes it happens live on the show. It's definitely there by the time we are doing the pre-lock show. So just one of those things we have to wait for. Patience is key. Next up, we have the Nets against the Mavericks. Honestly, you have to pay me to play someone on this Mavericks team that's not Luka. Because these guys, I mean, Lively looked decent last game, but like they're just not doing a lot when Luka's playing and healthy. Tim Hardaway got hot for a little bit last game too, but on this size slate, I just can't do it. Does anyone interest you on this team outside of Luka?
Outside of Luca, no. But I know Lively had a good game last
Yeah,
time. But it's just that being that he's only center and he's 6,400,
yeah,
like I can just go to Patel, right?
yep,
Who's cheaper, or if I want to pay up for a center, right? So it's just like I'm not gonna be on him.
yep. I agree. Rough. It's our team works on it. They work on ownership projections. They also work on our projections themselves, and so we get that through the domination station, and you can too if you become a VIP member. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just not interested in these guys. Luca's fine. He's viable on this slate, but he's also not my favorite stud. Um, are you getting to Luca at all on this slate?
In my latest projections, I was getting to him a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's just in the mix, but not a priority. I agree. What about these Nets? Are any of these guys standing out for you? It's okay if you want
Yeah,
to say Cam Thomas. I know I totally just crapped on him, but if he's your guy today, it's okay.
yeah. I seen that people saying Cam Thomas is going to be chalk, but he's a guy like I'm not going to force. If
Yeah.
he's chalk, I'd easily get away from that because
Mm-hmm.
he played 25 minutes, but he did score 6 points or
Yeah.
whatever. So he did have a big game, but I'm not going to force him.
Yeah.
I do think because Nick Claxton is out, so if Sharp
Mm-hmm.
starts for the Nets, he'll be somebody that I try to get a good amount of. But
Yeah.
at the same time, the Nets could go small against Dallas, so
Yeah.
just gotta just keep it's a wait and see approach today.
Yeah, I definitely do want to keep an eye on the starting lineup. Again, shameless plug. DFS Army in the Discord, we have a really good team that updates you when players are going to be out and good potential pivots. Upper Slat is awesome at that. And it's vital. Like you really need it when it comes to NBA DFS. And like you just mentioned, if Sharp is in the starting lineup, he becomes the super chalk on this slate. And for good reason. If he doesn't start, he's a little bit less interesting. But like you mentioned, if I had to, let's see, what's the projected starting lineup? It looks like the projected starting lineup is for Sharp to start. So as long as that happens, I'm right there with you on Sharp. I think he'd be a fantastic play on this slate.
And
But we have to wait and see. Ben Simmons is looking good, 6K. The problem for him is minutes. He hasn't really played into the 30s when it comes to minutes, so that's still going to keep me off of him and just kind of in more of a wait and see approach. It does look like Royce O'Neal and Dennis Smith are popping a little bit. I don't foresee myself getting there a ton. Even like Spencer Dinwiddie's popping. Or any of these guys interesting to you?
yeah, I totally forgot to mention Spencer Dinwiddie.
Mhm.
He was popping a good amount in my crunches, and I
Yeah,
know he had a bad game last time, but he should definitely bounce back against
yeah,
Dallas. So he's somebody I'm going to get to.
yeah. It's an interesting spot for them against this Mavericks team. I typically don't like to play opposing players against the Mavs, not because the Mavs have a good defense, they don't, but they play at a very slow pace. And so it's typically harder for players to get to their ceiling. Spencer Dinwiddie, though, is only 6,100, so he's not that expensive. I'm willing to stomach it, especially if the domination station is giving me a lot of it, but, not my favorite position, obviously. TK, Thomas is asking you about your basic approach for showdowns. Are you able to kind of give any context around that?
Yeah, my basic approach is to break everything down. Like for captains, I'll get the captains that I like and just I'll play those guys in a separate batch. And I just I take stands. I try to make sense in my lineup. So if I go Anthony Davis at captain, I'm not gonna get so much LeBron at the flex versus like yesterday. I would go Anthony Davis captain, not so much LeBron, but I'll go heavy Kevin Durant. Probably go like 80%, maybe even lock him in. So I kind of do stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to being willing to take a stand, and that's not what people always want to hear, because it's nice when you can just like mix and match everything, but especially when it comes to some showdowns, you got to make calls sometimes. You can't play everybody.
And definitely, if I see a value, I'll go heavy on that value. Like Goodwin, I'll probably lock him in the flex. So stuff like that.
All right. Next up, we have the Clippers against the Utah Jazz. How are you treating this team today?
With Utah, I was getting Olynyk. I think this is a pretty good matchup for him. I'll go right back to Wade Kessler.
Yep.
And that was pretty much it for Utah.
Yep. I'm right there with you. For me, it's Kessler and moving on. What about for the Clippers? Any of them standing out?
Nobody really stands out, but I was getting some Plumlee at 4,000 on DK. I'm definitely not going to force him, but whatever I get of him, I'll probably be okay with it.
Yeah, Plumlee's interesting. At 4K, price tag makes sense. But again, just not one of those guys I really want to force exposure to. Russell Westbrook is looking solid, and like with a good team around him, like this team has potential. But 7K or anything above 7K, like 7,200 in particular, is a little bit too much for me to get excited about him. So again, just another team I kind of have to just let the domination station do its thing. I'm not going to really have strong stands on this team tonight. So I think it's safe to move on. Now, a team that I know we talked about a little bit before the show, or really just this entire game, you were pretty excited about. What kind of, or who are you liking the most from this game?
Oh man, this game right here is going to be a great 239.5 game total. I love my favorite play from this from this game is definitely Sabonis. I think he's a great stud to play. I want to go right back to Fox in this fast-paced environment. I think even Looney's a decent play, because I know last year he averaged 28 fantasy points a game. Barnes, like I just love this game. I have a lot of exposure to this game.
Yeah, and I know Kuminga was a big bust for a lot of people on Tuesday, I believe. He got into foul trouble though, so I think even he's viable on this slate. You mentioned Looney. Curry, I think, is in a really good spot as well. I already have a like on him to make sure I don't forget about him on this slate. Sabonis and Fox are always a little bit tougher for me to get to, but you're right. Like Sabonis, you can play bigs against this Golden State team. So at 10,200, that's not crazy. I don't know if he's going to make my lines yet. As of right now, he's not, but I understand the case for it, and he could be an interesting tournament play, but I got to feel it out. As of right now, though, I can't do it. De'Aaron Fox, though, is definitely interesting and very viable. What are you doing with Chris Paul, though? Like that, he's one of my biggest question marks on this slate.
Yeah, I think Chris Paul is a solid play. I definitely want Chris Paul over Klay Thompson. Yeah. Just because Chris Paul's gonna go out there and give you points, rebounds, and assists and steals. Yeah. I think he's a fine play.
Yeah. Klay he needs his shot to fall to get there, whereas Chris Paul has like the assist options available too. Yeah. I want in my mind, it's not going to be today, but I am going to be the first person to stop playing Chris Paul. As soon as it makes sense for me not to play Chris Paul, I'm going to stop doing it. But for now, he's in the starting lineup. And why is just I don't want to play Chris Paul. It's 2023. We shouldn't be playing Chris Paul right now. But he's seeing all the minutes he possibly can, and he's a core piece of this offense for now. I don't think that's going to happen the whole season. But Draymond is still out. I'm gonna play Chris Paul today, but I'm not gonna like it. Anyone else you think we should talk about that we might be overlooking? I know Keegan Murray was getting hot there for a little bit in his last game. Like, it looks like this season could be a good second year for him, but I'm still kind of pissed off with him with how bad he was last year. So I don't really foresee myself getting there, but I do think that could be an interesting tournament spot too, though. Anyone else you think we're missing here?
Yeah, I said, I think Wiggins is pretty interesting.
Yeah,
at 5,700.
Good call. Yeah, we shouldn't forget about Wiggins tonight either, with Draymond still being out. So for me, it's Curry, Chris Paul, Wiggins, and then kind of Looney and Kuminga as some of my like viable tournament plays. And then when it comes to the Kings, I'm interested in Fox, and I have a little bit of interest in Murray. Is that kind of like a good summary of this game, or?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree.
And I don't want to completely throw out Sabonis. He's viable. He's viable. All right. Last game on the slate. Powered through. Got through it. The Magic against the Portland Trail Blazers. Two crappy, shitty teams. Who are you liking here, man?
Yeah, from Portland, I love Aiden. Well, I'm not gonna say love, but I like Aiden and Simons.
Yeah.
Still think Simons can go out there and have a big game. Aiden, I think he's waiting to unleash. We all know Orlando's not a good team, so those two are definitely my favorite from Portland. Scott Henderson, I'm not on him yet, but from Portland, those two are my favorite.
Yeah, I am hoping and praying Ayton sees low ownership today, so he can be one of my favorite leverage plays tonight. Ayton only played 23 minutes in their first game on Wednesday, and that was because of foul trouble. So you just kind of throw that out the window. No longer matters. Of course, he could get into foul trouble today, but you don't play NBA DFS trying to predict that. And so fantastic matchup against this Magic team, and he's only 6,300. I'm on Ayton again. Scoot's interesting. I don't foresee myself getting there. He did not look great on Wednesday. Of course, that was his first game. Could definitely come back and do a lot better in this matchup against the Magic. So I'll consider that, but not my favorite play. What about the Magic? Are any of these guys kind of interesting to you, like Markelle Fultz or Paolo?
Yeah, on FanDuel, I love Paolo Banchero. So if anybody's playing on FanDuel, I would get to him. But other than that, I definitely wasn't getting to anybody else on Orlando.
Yeah. For me, it's mostly Ayton. I understand your Simon's call. And I think that's it. We have a good slate today, though, man. I think there's some pretty obvious spots, especially in these like first two games, and then you start mixing in the Rockets and Spurs, Golden State Warriors and Kings, and then a few pieces from these other games. It's a large slate, but doesn't feel as daunting as like Wednesday's slate felt.
Yeah.
You agree, or feel like I'm just talking?
No, I definitely agree. From the standpoint, it's not like a 12 slate game. It's just, to me, this is kind of like almost a perfect amount, because you can easily get different. Like for example, in the Bulls game, if DeRozan and Levine is chalk, just get off of those guys, especially in single entry.
Yep.
So many ways to get different on this slate.
Yeah. I can't wait to see ownership, and we'll talk about it on the pre-lock show, as I've already mentioned, but that is for VIP members. Feel free to use the promo code NBA23 for 23% off. Anything you want to mention, TK? Any last words before we go our separate ways until Monday?
Any last words? Let's see. I would just say, pay attention to ownership.
Yep.
Guys, this is the third slate of the season. It's okay to be different. You should probably want to feel uncomfortable in some of your lineups, especially if it's single entry. So that's all I got to say.
Yeah, that is the biggest thing that I've been trying to preach today. JJJ, Evan Mobley, they heard us on Wednesday or whatever day that was. Be uncomfortable and play them again. They could screw us. Even if they screw us again today, I'm probably still going to play them again because they're still in beneficial spots. NBA DFS, it's a season-long game. Don't lose it all just because of one bad performance. But that was it, everybody. Appreciate you for joining us. We look forward to seeing everyone on Monday, and hopefully we're all celebrating tonight. Peace out, y'all. Bye.